Welcome to the Deep Dive, where today we're diving into a world you all know and love, Middle-earth. We're talking Lord of the Rings, obviously. You've all shared your love for the books and the movies, the battles, the magic, the whole shebang. But what we're going to uncover today is how Tolkien's own life, his experiences, his passions, are woven into the very fabric of this world.
And you might be surprised to discover just how deeply his reality informed the fantasy, transforming ordinary life into something truly extraordinary.
So let's start at the beginning. Tolkien's childhood, I've always pictured him, scribbling away in some ancient library, surrounded by dusty tomes, but that wasn't quite his reality, was it?
Not exactly. Imagine instead a young Tolkien roaming the fields and forests of Sarehole, England. This wasn't just any countryside, it was the blueprint for the Shire. Picture this. The meandering watermill stream, that became Hobbiton's water. The charming half-timbered houses of Sarehole village. Those inspired the cozy hobbit holes. Even the name Shire itself reflects, the rural counties Tolkien knew so well.
Wow, so when we picture those idyllic landscapes and charming hobbit holes, we're really seeing Tolkien's own childhood memories come to life. It's like he bottled the essence of his youth and poured it onto the pages.
Precisely. And just like those hobbits, Tolkien found joy in, those simple pleasures of Sarehole, the warmth of community, the bounty of the earth, a shared love for storytelling by the fire.
It really makes you wonder, if Tolkien ever sat by a crackling hearth in Sarehole listening to tales of ancient heroes and thought, what if I created my own? But Tolkien's life wasn't all, peaceful meadows and second breakfast. The tranquility of his youth was shattered by the outbreak of World War I, a period that, had a profound impact on his worldview.
Absolutely. Imagine Tolkien, a young officer, facing the horrors of the trenches firsthand. The Battle of the Somme, one of the most brutal battles in human history, really left an indelible mark on him. And while he always maintained that The Lord of the Rings wasn't a direct allegory for the war, its influence is undeniable,
Yeah.
especially when we look at Mordor.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine the contrast from the peace of the Shire to, like, the desolate industrial wasteland that is Mordor. It's like looking at, two sides of the same coin, one shaped by peace, the other ravaged by war.
And that's where it gets really interesting. You see, Tolkien witnessed firsthand how modern warfare, with its machines and industrialized killing, could strip away humanity, leaving behind a kind of mechanized evil.
Which is exactly what we see in the orcs, right? They're not just mindless monsters. They're a reflection of how war can dehumanize, turning individuals into, like, cogs in a brutal machine.
Exactly. Tolkien captures that chilling transformation in his depiction of the orcs. Their lack of individuality, their worship of industry and power, their utter disregard for the natural world. It's a stark warning about the potential for darkness within us all.
But amidst that darkness, Tolkien also found profound strength in the bonds of comradeship forged during the war. The camaraderie he experienced with his fellow soldiers, the way they relied on each other for survival, those experiences would become like a defining element of the fellowship itself.
Precisely. The Fellowship isn't just a group of adventurers on a quest. It's a testament to the enduring power of friendship, loyalty, and shared sacrifice, even in the face of, overwhelming odds.
So the next time we witness those moments of unwavering loyalty between Frodo, Sam, Aragorn, and the others, we're not just seeing a fantasy trope, we're seeing echoes of Tolkien's own experiences in the trenches, transformed into something both heroic and deeply moving.
And that transformation, that ability to weave personal experience into timeless narratives, is a testament to Tolkien's genius. But his talents weren't limited to storytelling. His love for languages ran even deeper.
Oh, absolutely. This is where things get really fascinating. Tolkien wasn't just fluent in multiple languages. He invented several of his own. Quenya, Sindarin, the languages of the elves, fully formed, with their own grammar and history.
He believed that language was the foundation of culture and myth, and that by creating languages, he could, in a sense, breathe life into an entire world.
Okay, wait a minute. He just invented languages, like complete with grammar rules and vocabulary, everything. The man was practically a wizard. So when we hear those beautiful, almost lyrical elvish phrases in the books or the movies, we're hearing the product of Tolkien's own linguistic creations. That's incredible. It's like stepping into a secret world, one hidden within the very words on the page. And speaking of secrets, Tolkien was like a master at weaving ancient myths and legends into his own creations.
It's true, Tolkien's love of mythology, particularly Norse and Anglo-Saxon epics, is deeply embedded in Middle-earth.
Hmm.
It's not just, he wasn't just inspired by these stories. He understood their structure, their themes, their ability to, like, connect us to something ancient and powerful.
So when we encounter Gandalf battling a Balrog or, learn about Aragorn's lineage tracing back to ancient kings, we're not just witnessing isolated events, we're tapping into, like, a timeless narrative that resonates with those deep-seated myths.
Exactly. Remember the dragon Smog and the Hobbit? He's not just any dragon. He's a descendant of those, fire-breathing beasts found in Beowulf, an epic poem Tolkien cherished. Even the name Gandalf is plucked straight from Norse mythology, meaning wand elf. Tolkien understood that by weaving these familiar threads into his work, he could create a world that felt both new and strangely familiar.
It's like he built bridges between our world and Middle-earth, using language and mythology as the foundation. But there's another layer to Tolkien's world building, one that reflects his growing concern about, the rapid industrialization he saw unfolding around him.
Absolutely. Imagine Tolkien witnessing the English countryside, the inspiration for so much of his work, being scarred by factories, railways, and urban sprawl. It filled him with a sense of loss, a longing for a world where nature was respected, not exploited.
So when we see the Shire threatened by industrialization, with Saruman and his machinery representing that encroaching darkness, it's more than just like a battle between good and evil. It's a reflection of Tolkien's own fears about the world he saw changing around him.
Precisely. Remember those scenes in the Two Towers where Saruman's orcs are, they're tearing down the trees of Fangorn Forest. It's a visceral representation of what Tolkien saw happening to the natural world. Yeah. And Saruman himself, seduced by the promise of power through industry, becomes a cautionary tale. He transforms from a wise wizard into a kind of slave to technology, his connection to nature severed.
It's like that saying, playing God. Saruman thought he could control nature, bend it to his will, but Tolkien reminds us that nature is a force to be reckoned with, not a resource to be exploited.
And that's where the Ents come in. These ancient tree shepherds, often overlooked, embodying nature's quiet power. They remind us that nature has its own agency, its own timeline, and those who underestimate it do so at their own peril.
Their slow, deliberate march to war against Saruman is one of the most powerful moments in the books, It's like they're saying, we may be slow to anger, but we are mighty when awakened.
Exactly. And it's a message that feels even more relevant today. Tolkien's not, he's not preaching. He's inviting us to see the world through a different lens, to recognize the interconnectedness of all living things.
It makes you appreciate that breathtaking moment when Frodo, standing on the brink of Mount Doom, chooses mercy for Gollum, recognizing that spark of good even in the most twisted of creatures.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important aspect woven throughout Tolkien's work. His deep Catholic faith. It's not overt, but it underpins those core themes of good versus evil, free will, and the power of sacrifice.
You can definitely see it in Frodo's journey, right? He bears the weight of the ring, enduring unimaginable suffering, not for glory, but for the salvation of Middle-earth. It mirrors the sacrifices made by figures throughout religious history.
Precisely. And the ring itself embodies temptation, the corrupting nature of power, echoing the concept of sin found in many religions. Even the smallest choice, like Frodo's decision to spare Gollum, can have monumental consequences, shaping the fate of entire worlds.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, a single act of compassion can tip the scales toward good. And ultimately, that's what makes The Lord of the Rings so enduring. It's a story about hope, about the triumph of the human spirit over seemingly insurmountable odds.
Precisely. It reminds us that even the smallest person, like Frodo, can make a difference. That even in the face of despair, we have the power to choose courage, to choose compassion, to choose good.
And isn't that a reflection of Tolkien's own faith? That even amidst the darkness of war and the encroaching anxieties of the modern world, he held on to that belief in the inherent goodness of humanity.
Absolutely. It's not that Tolkien was blind to the darkness. He had stared it down in the trenches. But he also recognized the light, those flickers of hope that shine brightest against a backdrop of despair.
Those sparks of resilience that reside within each of us, waiting for the right moment to ignite. It's incredible to think how Tolkien wove all these threads together. His childhood memories, the horrors of war, his love of language and myth, his anxieties about the future, his unwavering faith into this breathtaking tapestry that is The Lord of the Rings.
It's a testament to the power of storytelling, how our personal experiences, however ordinary or extraordinary, can be transformed into something that transcends, time and place, something that speaks to the very heart of what it means to be human.
It makes you wonder what stories are hitting within our own lives. What worlds could we create if we dared to explore those forgotten landscapes within ourselves, to weave our own experiences into something magical and new?
Tolkien showed us that the extraordinary doesn't have to be something, distant or fantastical. It can be found in the everyday, in the memories we hold dear, in the challenges we overcome, in the very act of looking at our world with fresh eyes.
So, the next time you find yourself lost in the pages of Tolkien's world, remember, you're not just experiencing a fantasy, you're experiencing the transformed realities of one man's extraordinary life. A life that reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always a glimmer of hope, a reason to believe in the enduring power of courage, compassion, and the undying spirit of adventure that resides within us all.
And perhaps, just perhaps, it will inspire you to embark on your own deep dive, to uncover the hidden stories, the forgotten languages, the unexplored landscapes within your own heart and mind.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.